Hi, third grade teachers. You have some time to calibrate your writing performance task, so let's go ahead and do that. If you are not already at the local and state assessment site, you want to take your laptop to that location. So I'm going to toggle to all sites and put in local and state assessment, and that should bring that site up. There we go. So once you're there, you want to, in the 2016-17 interim assessment window, go to third grade. And on that third grade page, you'll need to scroll down under the ELA task, the math task, until you see the folder third grade informational writing calibration material. This is all of the information you'll need for this process. So you feel free to stay there. I'm going to come back here to some slides that will help us work through that process. So during this time, hopefully you'll get clarity about accessing the tools, what the anchor papers look like for the various rubrics, a chance to align your own scoring to a check set, and maybe to calibrate at least a piece of student work together. So you're going to need one laptop that will play this screencast, your own laptop to access all the material you'll need. All you need to print out is one copy of the SBAC informational rubric, it should say, not narrative, sorry about that, and maybe something to take notes on. So in that calibration guide, you have the item stem, what the performance task that was given to the third graders looked like, along with the source material. You have the rubrics, the 3 that you need for scoring. You also have a conventions chart and a little explanation of elaboration for explanatory writing, and we'll look at that too a bit. You've got some condition codes for what to mark for students who really don't write anything at all about what they were asked to, as well as some targets related to claims and standards. So I'm going to ask you to read that calibration guide, especially the performance task on it, reacquaint yourself with the rubrics, and also the conventions chart, especially for third grade, to review the grade level expectations for conventions at third grade. So will you take about 10 to 15 minutes to read through document 1 and then come back to the screencast. So you can pause right here. All right, so let's remind ourselves you have 3 traits or scoring criteria for this performance task. Organization and purpose is worth 4 points. Development and elaboration, 4 points as well. And then conventions, 2 points. We want to remember variety, severity, and density in convention. Variety speaking to the type of error that students are making. Are they making spelling error, punctuation error, syntax structure error? That would be variety. Severity would be the type of error they're making. Are they misspelling kindergarten words, or are they misspelling really sophisticated words that most third graders don't know? Kindergarten misspellings would be severe errors for a third grader, but misspelling something like miscellaneous would not be a severe error. And then density is really the percentage of error within the piece. Is it 10% or 60%? So really trying to keep those 3 labels in mind when you're looking at that conventions rubric. And then you had a page in that document 1 about elaboration and explanatory writing. Here's SBAC's definition. I'm going to give you a bit of time to read it on your own. So I think this is pretty familiar to you. You tend to ask kids to be more detailed, give examples, descriptions, and assist them in your conferring time to elaborate on their topics. This may be a bit different. These are levels of elaboration, and if I were to rank these, I would say listed support elaboration is probably type 1, the least sophisticated. General layered would be type 2, and then specific layered, probably the most developed. So I'm going to give you a bit to read this slide as well. So let's put some examples to these levels of elaboration. Let's say that I'm writing about first year teaching and I want to elaborate. One way I might do that would be with listed support. I might use a sentence like, the first year of teaching can be extremely stressful. A new teacher is trying to balance personal and work time, getting to know the school culture and understand it, and figuring out what in the world grading looks like for third grade students. Okay, that's a listed support. I gave you 3 items in a list, and it really wouldn't matter which I put first or last. So that's an example of the first type. If I want to elaborate in a general layered way, I might use a sentence like, the first year of teaching can be extremely stressful. You're trying to find a balance between your personal and your work time. You have no time for yourself all of a sudden. You never get to see your friends. You wonder if you should change your address to your school address instead of home. And it always seems that you're falling asleep by 8 o'clock. That's general layered elaboration. I elaborated on the idea of balance of personal and work time. I used more sentences, not strictly a list to elaborate that way, but they were general. Maybe we wouldn't say very imprecise, but if you even reordered a bit of my examples there in that general layered, it probably wouldn't make that much difference. Okay, let's try an example of specific layered elaboration. I might say something like, being a first-year teacher is extremely stressful. It seems as if one is always trying to create some kind of balance between personal and work time. You never seem to have any time for yourself because you're spending all of your time planning your lessons. And sometimes you have to go back to those plans you spent so long creating to revise them because you never finished the lesson as you planned it the first time. And then you have to spend even more time grading what the students produced during those lessons. So there you see I had an attempt at specific layered elaboration. That was a sentence-by-sentence progression. There's some cause-effect there, some reasoning, and so you really have to order those sentences in a specific way. I hope that helps to support what SBAC is referring here to in their levels of elaboration. And then we're familiar with this, these approaches we take to explain, this list of ways that SBAC is valuing the explanatory work that kids are doing. So I'm going to ask you to practice with those exemplars first. Those are documents 2, 3, and 4. Will you take some time with them? I recommend 15 to 20 minutes to really understand how those exemplars and the rubrics align themselves. So you want to pause the screencast now to do that together. Now, as a reminder, we don't always have exemplars directly for your grade level in that mode of writing. Third grade for trimester 2, you do have exemplars for the informational writing students were asked to do. You can see that for narrative, last trimester you didn't really have specific exemplars, so I'm glad you have these items this time around. Now I'm going to ask you to practice. There's a check set, documents 5, 6, and 7, and an answer key for that check set, documents 8, 9, and 10. I'd really encourage you to spend your most time here, really scoring maybe just the check set that tends to be the most questionable for you. Is it evidence and elaboration, or is it organization and purpose? Really try to give scores for those sets and then check your scores with that answer key. So try to take about 20 to 25 minutes to do that reading and scoring now. A reminder, scoring is not the same as grading. We're reading particular samples that were one moment of time for these students, gathering evidence from those samples, and then aligning that evidence to a score. It may not reflect that student's grade in writing at all. And a couple of reminders about scoring. The dimension has a lot of descriptors So you're taking a lot of things into consideration for just one particular scoring dimension. And because there's not a range of 0 to 999, there's going to be some high ones and low ones, high 4s and low 4s. And that's okay, although I know it feels uncomfortable. And remember, this isn't about circling bullets on rubrics. It's really looking for a preponderance of evidence. Where does the preponderance of evidence for the sample lie? Is it a 1, 2, 3, or 4? Not the average of a number of bullets. If you have time, it would be fabulous if you could calibrate a few papers together. Just look online and decide maybe on one person's screen to look at a particular student's and score it together and really agree on what you think that is. It will help that your team is really calibrated before you go to score individual papers. So you may want to take about 15 to 25 minutes if you have the time to do that together. And there's a document, number 11 in the folder, that Sun has created to really help you score on Illuminate quickly and enter those scores. You can click on the link for your grade level, and it should take you right into that portion of Illuminate once you've entered your password. The last thing we're going to ask you to do is share what your grade level considers to be below, at, and above. So if you could give 3 names of students who scored in those categories across your entire grade level and those ID numbers to your site instructional specialists, they'll make sure that we get that information up here. Thank you so much for all that you do for your students and the time you took to calibrate together. Feel free to email me with any questions or items you want clarified. And I want to remind you that on the literacy site, there are full opinion units of study with examples, student writing, checklists, rubrics, lessons day by day that I hope would really support you in teaching that mode of writing. Thank you for all that you do again, and best to you.